Good morning, PMR. Breaking news. Before we begin the fun part of success, I would like to provide you a brief product update. As you know, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac made changes to investment property and second home requirements, max 7% of book. This change caused the pricing to get smoked, as many lenders realized their book of business contained 20, 25% or more investment property and second home. Things may get worse before they get better, as Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac enforce the 7% rule. Now we'll go to the good news. The WAB Streamline product is now live in Optimal Blue. The product description is on Connect in Jumbo and in the non-QM guidelines. No minimum loan amount, max loan amount $2 million. This product prices competitive with or better than conventional at certain loan to values and with certain transaction types. Second home investment property cash out, sound familiar? Between now and next Tuesday's sales meeting, you will see a lot of activity on Connect and in Optimal Blue as we roll out the Max X product line. Including their Express DU product. You will also see the WAB Streamline interest only product. Can you imagine the second home investment property interest only product advantage you will have in your marketplace? Our jumbo and non-QM product offerings will be doubled, all officially announced at next Tuesday's sales meeting. Would you think we're going to do nothing? I don't think so. We're blowing and expanding our product up dramatically. I didn't even mention the FHA lesson 620. Basically, what it all comes down to is everything's going to be fine, 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 to quote Alanis Morissette. Now I need to slow down. It's success. Master of ceremonies time. Mr. Kevin Wong. Good morning, Premier Mortgage Resources, esteemed guests and contributors. I'm Jack Pritchard, your Master of Ceremonies. Welcome back to Success 2021, How to Be Bold in a New World. Today we have a fantastic guest speaker, Mr. Kevin Wong, who will be speaking to us about financial wellness and navigating the ups and downs of the economy. Mr. Kevin Wong is a certified financial planner and the Senior Vice President at UBS Financial Services. Kevin is dedicated to working with clients as a strategic partner to maximize their financial goals, specializing in implementing wealth management planning strategies and solutions. He is based in Boise, but he serves clients across the country. Now for the fifth time at Success, I'm challenged again to introduce a man that needs no introduction. He's a tremendous husband, father, and recently a new grandfather. His honest and straightforward communication demonstrates his drive to be successful daily. For me personally, his character was demonstrated at introduction. Yes, he's had success in business. Yes, he's tremendously skilled, experienced, and talented. But that is not why we're excited to hear from him today. He's a problem solver. He's a closer. He's a motivator, an educator. He's genuine. It is my pleasure to introduce our managing partner, Mr. Corey Swing.
Thanks, Jack. I appreciate it. And Kevin, welcome aboard. Thanks for joining us today and taking some time out of your busy day to talk about financial wellness and success. And so, and all disclosure, guys, Kevin is my financial planner, mine and Mandy's, and he's done some great work for us. So we've asked him to speak today just to talk about how to put together the right financial plan for you and your families and why that's important and not to procrastinate. My big thing is it's easy to talk about this stuff, but you actually have to start. And so starting is half the battle. And so for anybody that knows me very well, I believe if you just show up every day, things work out. And it's the same thing with the financial plan. You actually have to show up and be present. And guess what? It'll work out. So anyway, to that point, I had a couple of questions for Kevin. And one is, man, last year was a crazy ride in 2020. The market was on fire for us. We all did really well. But as we all know, the market giveth, the market taketh away in our business, just like it does probably for some financial planners as well. So I kind of want to get your take on 2020 and then 2021 and how you kind of look at things unfolding. I mean, a lot of people say the stock market's really heated up right now, which I kind of think it is personally. But he, Kevin and I have had this discussion many, many times. But at the same time, we've got a lot of money in the market now. A lot of, I think, in the trillions, right? I think we're talking about possibly $4 trillion coming into the United States in the market for different things. And so that's going to heat up a lot of different stocks and a lot of opportunities. So what does that really mean to you when it comes to financial planning? I want Kevin to talk about all that, talk about how to formulate a personal plan, and I'll shut up and let him talk for a minute. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah. Well, yeah, 2020 was a bit much. We're a year into COVID now. I mean, about a year ago, I was watching the market go down 10% in a day, up 10% the next day. Nobody knew what was going on. No one had a game plan for what was happening. And, I'm sure we all remember the shortages, the famous ones like, TP, but less so much like lumber or housing. I mean, what kind of supply do we have on the market right now? It's a fraction of what it was. It's just been a crazy year. Yeah, the market, I think, at one point at its worst was down 20%. Portfolios are up, 20 to 30% last year. That's a 50% rise, from the bottom. I mean, it was crazy. But the question, I guess, is what do we see? Well, essentially, every single year there's a reason not to invest. But if you really just take a step back and you look at the markets, you look at the charts on the history, they move from the bottom to the top, over time. I mean, I don't know. One of my things I always try to bring up with clients when they start questioning, is the market hot right now? Is it not? I'm like, okay, well, there's always a reason why not to invest. Do you remember when World War III almost started? And most of them are like, well, what are you talking about? Like, Russia invaded Crimea, and everyone was talking on the news like this is going to be World War III. There was I think a U.S. plane was shot down, but people can't even tell me what year that was. Well, most can't. So I look at it, and I also look at, companies, they're run by humans. Humans are resilient. Humans figure it out. Humans find a way to make things profitable. And, I tend to, I'm an optimist at heart. I do try to plan for all kind of contingencies, but when I invest, I invest and encourage clients to invest in human ingenuity and human perseverance. So hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does. So let's talk about the level of investment, right? I mean, I think some folks think that you have to have a lot of money to invest. You have to have been, some money put in savings, et cetera. You have to have extra money left over every month. And I think that's true to some extent, but really to a large extent, you can start with a really small dollar amount at a young age and accomplish a lot. And my thing with people when I talk to them is, remember, your biggest expense is what? Not your mortgage, not your car payments, it's taxes. And so your enemy, as far as your paycheck, really is your taxes. And I think Kevin, he and I talked about this earlier, and I asked him to address a few of those concerns about how much to invest, how to get started, and then how to really maximize out all your tax advantages so you get the most out of your net income at the end of the year and when you're ready to retire.
Yeah. Just kind of start off with another story, and that is I work with a lot of different 401ks. One of them is this pure millennial, 150, 30 and unders. And I make sure I tell this story every time. And that is, if you saved $100 every single month from the age of 20 to 30, and then you never saved again, you're going to have more money in retirement. Well, we'll just pick 65. You're going to have more money in retirement than someone who saved double, $200 a month from the age of 30 to 65. So the earlier you start, the better. You don't need a lot. Come on, the internet's okay. Careful what you read on the internet, but there's a ton of investment, diverse options. You could just buy an index fund for, I think, most accounts now you can buy them for free on Robinhood or E-Trade or some of these other platforms. But you can start with virtually nothing, and I encourage everyone to.
And of course, we have a 401k here, so that's something we provide for you folks that we try to make sure it's in good hands and it's well taken care of. We've had great returns on that as well, and you can have lots of options inside that 401k. So let's talk about that for a minute. Let's talk about the 4 or 5 things you should do first before you really start looking at other options that are maybe a little bit more aggressive.
Absolutely. So, first off, you got to look around and look what tax advantages you have, and then also what free money you can get. You invest in your 401k. If there's a match, that's free money. You put in $100. Let's say the company's going to match it dollar for dollar. It's a free $100. That's a 100% return in one day. Just that should be happening no matter what. In fact, I encourage you guys just to go on, maybe dual screen this and and make sure you're signing up for that. In addition to the 401k, I do encourage people to look at the HSAs. If that's an option, that's a tax-free, and you put money in, that's a tax deduction. You can invest it and it'll grow tax-free. And then when you pull it out for medical reasons, it's a tax-free exit as well. So really I start with 401k, HSA. After that, you should be consulting with a financial professional or your CPA and taking a look at traditional IRAs or Roth IRAs. I do like to talk through the whole Roth, because I think your 401k has, yeah, no, I do it. Your Roth 401k, your Roth IRA, those are, you pay taxes now and you don't pay taxes when you take it out. The traditional route, the traditional 401k or traditional IRA, you don't pay taxes now, but you will pay taxes when it comes out. In general, an investment's going to double every 10 years. That's just average market returns, nothing fancy, just like a S&P 500 index. Actually, that might actually beat that. But so let's say you put 10 grand into a Roth IRA now. Well, you're going to pay taxes today in today's tax rates on that 10 grand. But in 20 years, it'll double 10 to 20 to 40. You can pull out 40,000 and it'll be tax free. You already paid your taxes. Versus you can also do that in the traditional sense where you put that 10 grand in, that's going to be a tax deduction. You don't owe taxes on that today. And in 20 years, it's worth $40,000. And then, you pull it out and you're going to pay current taxes at that time in 20 years. One of the strategies that we're really starting to look at, take a lot closer look at is whether you should go traditional or Roth, because where do you think all these trillions of dollars is going to be coming from? Personally, I think it's going to be coming from future taxes. Tax rates are already slated to be going up next year, and capital gains are going to be part of that. There's just a lot of reasons why I think taxes are going up in the future. So also, for all you guys out there who are still working, generally speaking, your prime income years are the future. So I like to talk to clients while they're working. Their earnings potential is going to continue to go up. Unless you're not doing so great at your job, but I mean, in general, you're probably in the lowest tax bracket you will be for the rest of your life. Most people have been sold this lie that they're going to retire and they're going to be in such a smaller tax bracket. That's not always the goal. You don't want to be having a lot less money in retirement, coming in. So.
Hey, so on a Roth, Kevin, remind everybody because there's some income restrictions there, et cetera, to get them. And right, maybe there's some catches that not everybody can have a Roth. So maybe remind folks of what that would be.
So your employer plan, your 401k, you can have that Roth option. Doesn't matter. There's no income restrictions if it's through the company. On a personal level, there's strategies called the backdoor Roth IRA. It's routine. You can Google it, look it up, but it's essentially a way to get money into a Roth IRA, even though you're above I think this year it's $189,000 as a married file joint, or $130,000 single filer. So, okay. But yeah, there's lots of ways to
restrictions. I just weren't sure if they were, so just want to make sure we brought that up. But yeah, I think I'm with you. I think taxes just go up from here. I don't see them going down. I mean, there's already talk with the $4 trillion that are going to be spent by the government that there's going to be taxes increase on corporations for sure. So that's coming. I think that's going to pass the Senate and the House. So I look for that to happen this year or next year's latest. But anyway, on individual, you'll see taxes go up as well. So so the market's volatile, right? We're in a volatile kind of business. Is there anything advice you'd offer for us when we have good years, bad years, et cetera? We've talked about that a little bit, but maybe let's just kind of hone on that for a minute. What would you suggest for us in our industry that would be different?
Yeah, so I'm similar. My income is tied to what the markets are doing, what the economy is doing. I really, it's basic financial principles to me, and that is just you got to live below your means, your current means. I've seen. I do a lot of planning with high income earners, and a lot of times in a volatile market like yours or a volatile business, we'll maybe budget 70% of income. Maybe they make 400,000. It's like, okay, well, why don't we take a look at what 300,000 is going to look like? Or yeah, you do the math, but it's a significant percentage below what they're actually making, and then just like putting some of that excess into, we'll call it a slush fund or an emergency savings or a long-term savings, and then really dividing up in their own minds and in their own budgets, hard costs and soft costs. Okay, hard costs, that's going to be typical budget. Maybe it's $3,000 for a mortgage and $1,000 for bills and utilities and something, $1,000 for payments on cars or whatever. And $1,000 for food. There's $6,000 of hard costs, and maybe they spend $8,000 a month. Well, know what you're going to cut. Have that plan and that strategy of like, okay, here's what I got to hold, here's what I have to pay, and here's what I like to spend on. And know, in the future, if there's a rough quarter or a rough month, this is where we're going to trim.
Makes sense.
Just knowing that going ahead into it. So
financial diet, be ready for financial diet. What kind of milestones should be considered when you're kind of looking at retirement? Ages, I assume, but what else?
So one milestone, making sure you get all your free money. Making sure you're putting in whatever it is to get the full max, in your 401k. I think one of my favorite ones, and it tends to be at a younger age, and that's when you earn more than you save in a year. Let's say you have $100,000 in your 401k and it goes up 10%. You just made $10,000. Good job. You didn't have to do anything for that. And maybe that's the first year where like, hey, I only put in 8,000 and I earned 10,000 on top of it. So your whole account went up 18,000. Great job. Like I think that's usually the turning point, when they're like, why am I doing this? I don't understand. And then suddenly, the market goes up and they have that happen and they're like, oh, I get it. And then from there on out, you've gotten the momentum going in that investment account, and it'll out earn whatever you save. So
that's good advice. What do you think about Social Security? I mean, I think some of these younger employees and folks as well are always concerned about what happens to Social Security. Is it really there when I get there? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, actually, we just hosted a conference on this. There are so many political landmines to removing Social Security that's not going to happen. Now, there's also a ton of other levers to pull to keep it in place and to make sure that it lasts. So right now, they only pull the 15 if you're self-employed, 7.5. I'm rounding, 7.5% on income up to I think it's $142,000 this year. That limit can fly. I mean, they can very easily say, you know what, we're going to charge the Social Security tax on the first $500,000. In fact, socially, I think that is the easiest move the country's going to make, or politics are going to push. They could also like extend the age that you can start. For for my generation, Corey, maybe not yours. They might say you can't start till, right now it's 62. It might be 63 or 64, or full retirement age is going to move from 66 up to 68, 69, 70. So there's so many moving pieces to it that they're going to be able to limp this along. I really see no reduction, no way that's changing in the next generation. Now, multiple generations down the road, I'm not going to speak to, but I don't think it ever goes away fully. Just like I don't think Amazon stock's ever going to zero. It might go down, but it's not going to go to zero. So.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Hey, so if you're going to give us kind of a rough calculation on how much we just save for retirement, is there a formula that you kind of use in your head to say, well, if I want to be at X amount of income, how does that kind of look, and how many years, et cetera?
Yeah. So you kind of hinted to it. First off, you do have to create a plan, figure out what are you actually going to need in retirement. Do you have, like, what's your lifestyle, and what are you willing to I don't want to say settle at, but like, what do you need? Is it 100,000? Well, maybe you have a military pension. That's $40,000. Oh, well, now we just need to cover that income gap of 60,000. Or maybe you got some rental properties that'll be paid off by then. You have to understand all your moving pieces. What's the inflow going to look like, and then what's the outflow? What's your expenses? And then you bridge that gap with your investments. $1 million invested conservatively, you're going to get $40,000 or $50,000 a year. And so the answer is different for everybody. Some people are completely happy living, in Idaho on $60,000. Some people want to live in San Diego on $250,000 a year. You need to know what that looks like, and and solve for that income piece. So
Makes sense.
I hope that makes sense. And then honestly, the rest of it's just math. If I need 100,000 of income from my investments and I'm only willing to take so much risk, well, maybe you earn 6%, or maybe you're going to, whatever it is. And then between now and the next, you want to retire early, retire late, whatever happens to be, you need to save X dollars amount, over that time frame. You can boil it down to something very simple, but you need to know all the other moving pieces.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, I think what I heard from you today was start young, have a plan, don't procrastinate, basically figure it out, and get all the free money you can, of course. Limit your tax exposure, because that's a big deal. And anything else you want to kind of leave us with before we sign off for today?
Absolutely. And that's just inflation. I mean, it's a hot topic right now. Right now, I mean, the last 10 years, inflation's been below 2%. But, I got way too many clients who are like, yeah, I got 100 grand. It's been sitting in the bank since 2008 because, the crash. I'm like, great. And they're like, well, it hasn't lost any value. I'm like, no, your 100,000 cash is still 100,000 cash, but it only buys, maybe $75,000 worth of stuff, that you could have bought in 2008. They're like, no, but it's only 100,000. My point is when you really run that inflation number out the next 20, 30, 40 years, it's pretty drastic. I mean, look, you guys are a mortgage company. Everyone here should understand that. If you had a mortgage 20 years ago, that 30-year fix, think about that payment. That was cute, right? Maybe at the time it was a stretch, but now it's cute. Don't let that happen to you and your investments and your money and your financial plan.
Well, that's a great point, because inflation is coming. You can feel it coming in the market. The prices of lumber, the prices of housing, prices of gas, you go on and on and on. I mean, that's been my fear for a while, and I think we're seeing it start now. And I think we wake up in 24 months from now and go, wow, this is gonna get it rough. I mean, for the first time in years now, we've got the Fed maybe talking about being more hawkish on interest rates. That was in a conversation, even 6 months ago, even. And so I don't know, man, I'm with you. I think it's a big fear. I'm glad you brought that up. Anything else before we sign off for today?
Honestly, just yes, actually. If I think the biggest place that people don't start this process, like you said, getting that initial first step or not procrastinating, I would look into something like mint.com or Wealthfront or Betterment, something that will actually automate, a tracking of your spending and a tracking of your net worth and a tracking of your like you can plug all your financial information in there, and you'll start to understand, oh, wow, I spent $1,000 last month. Oh, and it looks like historically I've spent $1,000 on restaurants, and I'm trying to figure out how to save for my kids' college. Let's take a look at that, it really can be enlightening to see really what you are spending your money on and not hiding from it. And that may give you the motivation to truly lean into saving for retirement. And I'm going to keep talking because I got you, but that is, you guys are in the business of lending money. No one's going to lend you money for retirement. You can get a car loan. I don't like those as much. You can get a school loan, education loan. You cannot get a loan for retirement. So if you're not looking out for you, no one else is going to.
Great. That's great wisdom. Thank you very much. Kevin Wong, guys, big thanks to Kevin. Thanks for today. Awesome job. Appreciate it. And anyway, maybe next year we'll do this again.
I'd love that. It was fun.
Thank you. Jack, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Swain. Thank you, Mr. Wong. Inflation, I can start with almost nothing. How much do I need to have saved? That all got my attention. I know I can speak for my PMR colleagues, and I say we felt lucky when we heard Kevin would be speaking at Success this year. Our feelings were spot on, and that was fantastic. Thank you again, Kevin. I'd like to thank all our sponsors: Partners Credit, Controller Consulting Services, Advanced AMC, Byte, Flowify, National MI. Thank you all. Without your support, Success 2021 would have been less successful. In closing, PMR, contributors, and esteemed guests, thank you again for your time and efforts today. Remember, success breeds success. This ends our scheduled event. Thank you for your attendance.